Have you ever thought that on a normal day, like any other, the earth beneath your feet would suddenly start to vibrate with a gigantic force, awaken from the depths? Buildings, once symbols of stability, twist and collapse in a matter of seconds. The deafening sound, the tremor, and the debris echoes through the air, while fear and uncertainty take over everything. Throughout human history, these seismic events, which are manifestations of the immense energy that resides in the heart of our planet, have shaped landscapes, taken lives, and left deep scars in our collective memory. Today, we will embark on a journey where we will explore the three most powerful earthquakes ever recorded by modern science. But before we confront these true giants of nature, do you remember a recent event, a seismic tremor that hit Myanmar in March 2025? On the morning of March 28, 2025, the Southeast Asian nation of Myanmar was abruptly awakened by an underground sound. The earth shook with alarming intensity, registering a magnitude of 7.7 on the Richter scale. The epicenter of the seismic event was located near the historic cities of Mandalay and Sagaing, centers of Burmese culture and history. In an instant, daily life was disrupted by a shock wave that spread across the region. The impact was devastating. More than 3,300 lives were tragically lost under the rubble, while an estimated 4,850 people suffered injuries, many severely. The violence of the tremor did not stop at Myanmar's borders. In neighboring Thailand, the capital Bangkok felt the impact, resulting in the death of at least 23 people, victims of the structural collapse of a building that could not withstand the force of the seismic waves. The first hours after the earthquake were marked by scenes of chaos and despair. Rescue teams, made up of local volunteers and emergency workers, face a race against time to find trapped survivors. However, their efforts were severely hampered by adverse weather conditions. Torrential rains and sweltering heat battered the region, increasing the risk of landslides and the spread of infectious diseases among the displaced population, who sought shelter amid the destruction. The magnitude of the tragedy in Myanmar mobilized the international community. Countries such as China, India, and the United States quickly offered humanitarian assistance, sending essential supplies, medical teams, and rescue experts. This coordinated response highlighted the importance of global solidarity in the face of large-scale natural disasters, demonstrating the urgency of joining forces to mitigate suffering and support the reconstruction of affected areas. The Myanmar earthquake, although not among the most powerful in history in terms of magnitude, serves as a stark reminder of human vulnerability to the relentless force of nature, in addition to the constant threat that earthquakes pose in many regions of the planet. Now, let's travel back in time to a day that has gone down in history as the epicenter of the greatest display of seismic force ever measured by human instruments. On May 22, 1960, Chile was the scene of a cataclysmic event, the Great Valdivia earthquake. Measuring a staggering 9.5 on the Richter scale, this tremor was not just an earthquake. It was a true freak of nature, a shock that redefined our understanding of the planet's destructive potential. The Valdivia region in southern Chile was the epicenter of this immense release of energy. The earth twisted and roared, sending shock waves that spread across the globe. The immediate impact was devastating. Approximately 1,655 people lost their lives, crushed under the rubble or directly injured by the fury of the earth. More than 2 million Chileans were left homeless, their lives and homes destroyed in the blink of an eye. But the tragedy was far from over. The extreme magnitude of the Chilean earthquake triggered a series of monstrous tsunamis that swept across the Pacific Ocean. Massive waves, driven by the sudden rise and fall of the seabed, traveled thousands of miles, carrying with them an unrelenting destructive force. Hours after the initial quake, Hawaii, thousands of miles away, was hit by powerful waves that caused significant damage. Japan, on the other side of the Pacific, also felt the tsunami's fury, with waves crashing onto the coast, destroying ports and coastal communities. Even the Philippines and Asia was hit by the devastation, demonstrating the terrifying capacity of a single seismic event to generate repercussions on a global scale. The Great Chile earthquake was not only the strongest ever recorded, it was undeniable proof of the brute and relentless force of nature. For years after the Chilean cataclysm, on March 27, 1964, the frozen expanse of Alaska shook under the impact of the second most powerful earthquake ever recorded. Known as the Great Alaska Earthquake, this seismic event measured a magnitude of 9.2 and lasted for an astonishing amount of time, approximately 4.5 minutes of continuous, terrifying shaking. Imagine what it would have been like for the Earth to shake for nearly 5 minutes, a period of time that must have seemed like an eternity to those who experienced it. Although Alaska was relatively sparsely populated at the time, the earthquake caused significant structural damage and resulted in the tragic loss of 131 lives. The force of the quake was so intense that it caused massive landslides, soil liquefaction, and deep cracks in the Earth's surface, permanently altering the landscape. As in Chile, the Alaska earthquake also triggered devastating tsunamis. The massive waves formed in the frigid waters of the Pacific Ocean and spread outward, affecting not only the coast of Alaska, but also other distant coastal areas, such as California and even Hawaii. This demonstration of global reach, similar to the Chilean event, reinforced the understanding that a single large earthquake can have consequences that transcend geographic boundaries, reminding us of the intricate and powerful dynamics of our planet. The Great Alaska Earthquake, with its long duration and transcontinental impact, serves as a grim reminder of the unpredictability and uncontrollable force of the geological forces that shape our world. The history of the most powerful earthquakes now brings us to an event that marked the beginning of the 21st century with a tragedy of global proportions. On December 26, 2004, the floor of the Indian Ocean, off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia, ruptured with colossal force. An underwater earthquake measuring 9.1 shook the Earth, releasing an amount of energy equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs. The most devastating feature of this earthquake was not the tremor itself, but rather the gigantic waves it unleashed. Tsunamis. The sudden rise of the ocean floor propelled walls of water that spread in all directions, traveling at incredible speeds towards the coasts of 14 countries bathed by the Indian Ocean. In a matter of hours, paradisiacal beaches were transformed into scenes of apocalyptic destruction. The magnitude of the tragedy was unimaginable. Approximately 230,000 people lost their lives, engulfed by the massive waves that swept away entire coastal communities. Indonesia was the worst affected country, but the devastation extended to Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, the Maldives, and even the east coast of Africa. The geographic extent of the tsunamis and the number of casualties shocked the world, exposing the vulnerability of millions of people living in coastal regions prone to seismic activity. The 2004 disaster served as a grim wake-up call for the international community. The lack of an effective early warning system in the Indian Ocean contributed to the scale of the tragedy. Since then, there has been a global effort to implement tsunami monitoring and warning systems in vulnerable regions, recognizing the critical importance of preparedness and information to save lives in future disasters. The 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake not only demonstrated the immense destructive force of nature, but also catalyzed greater awareness of seismic risks and the urgent need to invest in disaster prevention and mitigation. As for the earthquakes we are exploring today, the recent earthquake in Myanmar, the gigantic tremor in Chile in 1960, the long-lasting catastrophe in Alaska in 1964, and the devastating tragedy in the Indian Ocean in 2004, they are testaments to the uncontrollable force that resides deep within our planet. They remind us, brutally and unequivocally, of our fragility in the face of the power of nature. The history of these seismic events is a continuing lesson. It teaches us about the vital importance of being prepared for such disasters, of investing in resilient infrastructure, and of developing effective early warning systems. Above all, it highlights the need for international cooperation, human solidarity, and the constant advancement of science to better understand these complex phenomena and mitigate their future impacts. As long as the Earth continues to move and release its internal energy, earthquakes will remain a constant threat. The story of these giants of the Earth invites us to reflect on our relationship with nature, to recognize its unparalleled power, and to prepare ourselves for the inevitable, always seeking to build a safer and more promising future for all.